Today we're going to make banana bread. This is actually the handwritten recipe that stays on the side of my refrigerator at all times because this is one of my favorite recipes to make. So we're going to begin with our bananas. You'll see that we kind of wait for them to become spotted and a little bit ripe. Sometimes I think I buy bananas with the hopes that no one will eat them and we will get to make banana bread. So we're going to use these bananas with these nice brown spots because this is when the bananas get nice and sweet. The sugars really develop. So we're going to put them into a bowl, and I'm actually going to use a potato masher to mash them up. Very quickly they will break down. I want them to stay into some small chunks because I like to have that nice chunky bite in my banana bread. If you continue to mash them up too much, they almost become like a very liquidy paste. So kind of leave them with a little bit of texture. So in our bowl, we're going to take our sugar and we're going to take our eggs with our vanilla. We're going to use a whisk and we're going to begin to mix this to start breaking down the sugar. This is a very simple, quick and easy mixing method for a quick bread. Just a few stages of the addition of ingredients, and then very quickly you'll be in the oven. So we're going to take the whisk, we're going to beat in a little bit of air. We're really just breaking down the eggs, dissolving the sugar, preparing the first step so that we can begin to incorporate the next set of ingredients. So just do this by hand for just a few minutes. You can do this on a mixer, but it's easy enough to do this by hand. Continue to mix just until you feel that the sugar is kind of broken down, and then you're going to go ahead and add your oil in. So once we add our oil, again, we're going to whisk vigorously. What you're going to notice on this step is that the fat from the oil is going to actually very quickly emulsify, and your mixture will really look very thin and smooth because your fats have emulsified together. Once that's mixed, set it aside. We're going to take our dry ingredients and we're just going to mix them together with a whisk, so this way we break up any lumps of flour and also incorporate our leavening agents and salt into the dry mixture. Okay, so now we're going to take our dry ingredients, now that we've mixed them and they're much lighter, we're going to now fold them into our batter. Usually I switch to using a wooden spoon at this point so that I can mix this together very easily. And we're just going to stir until it's about halfway combined. So just give it a few turns. And once you see it's about halfway combined, I'm going to then stop and I'm going to add in my next ingredient. So we're going to use some yogurt. I've actually added this recipe to my recipe over the years. I find the yogurt gives a nice flavor, also adds a nice amount of moisture. And anytime that you add any sort of a dairy product, like sour cream, we did the other day with the sour cream crumb cake, or today like the yogurt, it just kind of helps bring the mix together, and that addition of acid also helps with flavor and also with activating the leavening ingredients. Now we're going to take our bananas and we're going to fold them in. I kept this today as a very plain banana bread, but at any point, if you wanted to add walnuts, that's a very classic combination, to add walnuts into banana bread. Another one of my favorite things to do is add chocolate chips, but I just wanted to keep this pretty plain. I didn't want to get too mixed up with flavors. I wanted to keep it really focusing on the bananas. So now I'm just going to fold that in until the mixture is completely incorporated. And now our next step is going to be putting it into our pan. So we're going to be using muffin tins and also a loaf pan. We also want to use parchment paper for the loaf pan. I'm going to spray this with a little bit of the Pam spray, and then I'm going to put the parchment paper in with leaving some of the paper hanging over the edges. And that really is just to help me to unmold it when it's done baking. I can just very easily lift it out of the pan. With our muffin tins, we're going to use these paper muffin liners, and we're just going to put one liner in each of the cavities. You can also spray the pan just in case anything overflows, but this recipe is usually pretty good with how it rises. So we're going to use a ice cream or a portion scoop, and we're going to scoop our mixture in. This recipe specifically will make 12 muffins and one 2-pound loaf pan. So we're going to just evenly scoop it in. You can see that we generously fill these muffin cups up. This recipe rises very well. It doesn't expand too much. It doesn't overflow. So you want to fill this up about 3/4 of the way. And I use ice cream scoops just because it gives me a nice even amount of batter, and that will then bake very evenly and give me a final even sized product. The remainder of the batter, I know for this recipe it makes one 2-pound loaf pan, but if you wanted to double check, you can simply put your loaf pan onto a scale, and then you can weigh out the remaining ingredients. So depending on the size of your pan, you may want to make adjustments, but for the loaf pan, you really want to just fill it up about halfway up the side of the pan. You don't want to go any further. So if you notice, for the cupcake molds, we went a little bit higher. For the loaf pan, we're just going to go about halfway up the pan. So this should weigh to be about 2 pounds. Always get everything out of the bowl using your plastic scrapers. Spread it nice and evenly. And now we're going to just also do one final addition just to make this a very nice presentation. So the other day we learned about how to make streusel or crumb. So we're going to take some of that crumb that we made and we're going to put it on top of the loaf pan. This will just give a nice final presentation. Also a little extra sweetness and a little bit of cinnamon in there. Here I'm just going to put them on top of half of the muffins, so you can keep some plain. You can decorate some up like this. If you did have walnuts in your recipe, I also might throw some in the crumbs as well. I like to really get that flavor in there, and I also like for my the consumer to know that there's nuts in the final product. Okay, so now I'm going to take these, put them into the oven, and here's our final product. Here's our muffins. And then also here's a little sneak peek of what you're going to see tomorrow, which is our cranberry scones. Enjoy!